Hey, what is up, YouTube? Today we're doing a bit of a different video here. We got ourselves a tier list, a Halloween tier list, no less. I'm gonna be tiering all of the existing Halloween maps that are in the game as of 2022's Scream Fortress update. We're gonna be going over them in just any random order, and I'm gonna be rating them based on whether I would play them in a pub. So whether I would select them in the casual when you're queuing. Yeah, so let's get right into it. Let's not waste too much time. And for those of you who don't know, most, if not all of these maps are event versions of existing maps. Most of which created to try and get the original into the game, but some, like Bloodwater, just take an already existing map and turn it into an event version. Some of these are created by Valve way back, when Valve still did things. Like, for instance, which one? Carnival of Carnage was made by Valve. But most of these are community maps created by the original maps creator as a way to, like, try to get their original map into the game. An example of this would be Sunshine. Sunshine was in the game before Sunshine was, and which is part of the reason... No, that's also part of the reason why there's a lot of differences between the Halloween version and the original. Or the version we see in the game, but when it comes to maps like Laughter and Slaughter, I mean, it's not clear to me exactly which one is the predecessor and which one is the older version. But obviously a lot of them are sort of like memified with extra pits and spells and pumpkin bombs, and we'll kind of be rating them based on how they compare to their original versions as well, because I find that to be a pretty interesting thing to look at. Alright, so let's get right into it. Let's just go in alphabetical order like they are presented to us here. We got Bloodwater, which I want to say is a very solid map. I'm going to put it in A tier. By the way, I'm going to probably be giving them an order as well within each tier. So we start off with Bloodwater, which I think is just A tier. It's a very solid map. It'll probably end up in like middle or bottom A tier, because it is very solid, but it is obviously still Badwater, so it kind of suffers from that in some aspects. It doesn't really do too much to... It doesn't really do too much to identify, like, to make itself into like a new version of the map. Like, I think they could have put in more elements of pro versions of Badwater just to make the map flow a little better, make it play a little bit better. But generally speaking, it is still a very solid map. I'm kind of sad they removed... I'm pretty sure the Horseman used to spawn on this initially. Nowadays it's only Marasmus, or not Marasmus, sorry, it's Monoculus who spawns on last and stuff. And he's like your way to get into the underworld. Personally, I think the fact that you can only get into the underworld with Monoculus, it's both good and bad. It means the underworld is kind of like lacking, like very rarely do you actually go there, which is, I think, a little bit unfortunate. The map also suffers, like, it only has like 5 or 6 gargoyle locations, which is a little bit stale. And obviously there's no forward spawn when you cap second, which makes pushing third a little bit annoying still, like the original Badwater. But you know, it is still Badwater. It is still a very solid map. Next up is Monster Bash. Monster Bash is a layout similar to Nucleus, where it is a round, sort of like circular map. It's weirdly like half symmetric. I mean, I guess it is symmetric, but because it's circular, it can be kind of confusing at first. I'm gonna put it firmly in B tier because it is fun. I do enjoy playing on it. The fact that the death pit isn't actually a death pit is kind of cool, even though you do crater about half the time because weird push trigger physics. Generally speaking though, the map is pretty good. It's obviously not an actual event version. It's just like a standalone map, which is really cool. Yeah, I mean, it just generally plays pretty well as well. It's just like a deathmatch, because it is player destruction, so it should just play like a deathmatch arena, and it does that quite well. So I'm gonna put it firmly in B tier. Definitely something I would queue into. So to give you like a kind of an idea, it's like S is like, these are like my favorite maps. A is I would always try to queue into this. B is I would probably queue into this if I need more maps. Like if I don't just want to queue for these maps, and I'll probably add these as well. C tier is if I'm playing with friends and they are selecting this for some reason, then I will not complain about it. I'll play it because they want to play it. And F tier is if you are queuing for this while I'm in your party, I will complain about this being in your map selection, because I do not think you should be playing these maps. Alright, that's kind of like a general idea. There will be exceptions, of course. Bonesaw is one of the new maps added this year. All the pinkies, as you can see, all the pinkies are new maps added this year. And Bonesaw is a payload race map. It has a pretty cool layout. I kind of like it as a deathmatch arena. It seems to play pretty well. It has some weird things, like they updated it recently and they got rid of like the cool walkway between the balconies, so I kind of like it less because of that. Overall though, it is still a very solid map. I've always liked Payload Race as like a sort of a DM fest. I might even put it in S tier because it is really good. The minigame at the end is kind of funny, even though like if you're not in first, like if you don't get a good spawn, then there's usually no way you can win, but I don't really mind that too much. It's a funny gimmick at the end of the map. I mean, the horseman spawns, so you can like bait him into a pit, which is really funny. Even though they try to fix it, you can still do it. It's really funny. The layout is cool and interesting. Like it's sort of hard to wrap your head around at first because it feels like diagonal in its spacing, which I think is kind of cool. It has a unique vibe to it for sure. So I'm gonna put it in S tier. It's probably gonna fall on the lower end of S tier, but definitely still, I want to say S tier. Brimstone 5th Curve is a solid map. I played the original in Highlander and UGC at some point. 5th Curve is actually a pretty good map. I wish they would put it in the normal game, like in normal casual. It's very solid. I know not a lot of people like this. I feel like a lot of people would put this in C tier or in F tier. But personally, I think it's really fun. It spawns bosses. Marasmus does the thing where he spawns spells like randomly, like he will make you all melee only, or it'll range your body or stuff like that. So I think it's really fun. It gets really chaotic. Probably upper B tier or lower A tier. We'll have to see about that. I might change this position. Carnival of Carnage, one of the OG Halloween maps. It is a Halloween version of what is it? The one where you capture the Australium and it goes into the rocket Doomsday. So the map itself, I've never been a real big fan of, but the Halloween version is definitely a little bit better because it has bonus ducks and bumper cart funniness. I'm gonna put it in probably lower A tier underneath Bloodwater. This might change depending on where I put other things. We're gonna have to see, but generally I think the map is very solid. The bumper car mini games are funny. You have the cool strange haunteds that only count kills on this map from I think the 2014 update when the map was first released. Those are cool. Yeah, generally like a very enjoyable map. Like it's not very, like I never really liked Doomsday that much, but the Halloween version is definitely better. I might put it like here actually, but well, one second, we'll see. Cauldron is the Halloween version of Bagel. I think this is an excellent map. Bagel should be featured in casual. It's just such a solid map. I've played it in like 4s, I've played it in Prolander, I've played it in Highlander. I have a big bias in favor of the original Bagel. Cauldron adds to Bagel by having good pumpkin spawns that are, you know, easy to get your contract bonuses with. It has a cool hell, which has like some cool parkour, and you know you can go the right side long way around, or you can do like the jumps on the little rocks to prove that you are a skilled gamer. The Cauldron itself is pretty cool. I just wish they would fix the weird bug where you get like the diagonal lines over your head. Probably above Bloodwater because it's just really solid. It plays well. Yeah. Crasher is the first F tier. Crasher, there's no redeeming factors here. Obviously I have a bias against CTF because it's a really slow format, and I will give Crasher this. It does try to like fix the issues of CTF. The layout is actually pretty good. The standalone layout of Crasher is solid as like an arena, like a deathmatch arena. It's just that the game mode itself sucks. CTF is just generally bad, and they sort of like made it inverted CTF where you have to take your intel to their side rather than taking their intel to your side, which I guess is kind of cool. It's just that the whole giant mechanic, not only was it super broken for the first couple of weeks where you could have infinite giants and stuff like that, people are still finding exploits with it, and a lot of I feel like this game was just not tested properly. Like, I'm sure that whoever made it, they tried very hard. You can tell there's a lot of love went into it with like the custom voice lines and stuff, but it just plays like ass. Like, you have to have a heavy carrier, otherwise you just don't win. Like, the katana is really broken as well on the carrier. Why does the carrier always have crits? A bunch of other questions, like why does the vaccinator work on the carrier but no other medigun really works? Like, the vaccinator is already fucking unfun and dog shit to play against. Like, the whole meta in Crasher is just fucking miserable. I think anyone who likes this map just has a really bad taste in things they enjoy, and they probably like playing 2 for it. So, this is staying firmly at the bottom of F tier. Like, there's no redeeming this. Also, there's no map timer, so these games can go on forever, which is just awful for CTF. Okay, Cursed Cove is actually really solid. I'm gonna put it around with Monster Bash. They're probably about equal for me. That probably has to do with player destruction as well. I'm not a big fan of player destruction, but it is fun. It is solid. Cursed Cove has a cool aesthetic with Davy Jones's locker. That's kind of cool, and the general layout of it is actually like, I don't think it's very it's very inoffensive layout. My one problem with the layout is at the mid, which is where you would expect most of the action to happen. It's just all a bunch of low ground or like towering high ground above low ground. So you never really fight for the mid. You always are either fighting in their side or you're fighting in your own side. It's very rare that you actually are like having big fights on that low ground because it is just a death zone. So that kind of hurts the map. I think Monster Bash doesn't really have that problem because everybody tends to stay on the high ground anyway, which means the low ground becomes like flank essentially, which is really like a cool dynamic. Cursed Cove, like it's solid, but Cursed Cove is solid, but it isn't fantastic. I mean, the locker is cool, and the fact that there's a pit in the locker, which is very abusable as well, just very enjoyable. Okay, Erebus is our first C tier. It's probably low C tier as well. I've never played the original Ambush, but Erebus plays like Dust Bowl, except better. And if this was like literally Dust Bowl event, it would have gone in F tier with Crasher. The fact that it's like an improved version means it's going in C tier. Like, it has verticality, it has some flank routes, and generally you could tell that some actual like brain work went into the map. The hell is like really weird because if you go into hell on defense, you just lose. Like, people will just cap while your whole team is in hell. And meanwhile, if you're on offense, you cap the point, the hell portal spawns right there, so there's no reason not to go in, which means the map tends to be very like, it's either like a roll, because once they cap the first point, they will probably cap the second point as well, or it's like a fucking stalemate and it's impossible to push because the roll didn't happen, and then it's just a bunch of like really tight choke points that are all like being held either by pyros, pocketed soldiers, heavies, you name it. So like, when it comes to actually holding, or like when actually having to push through stuff when it's no longer have momentum, the map just becomes really awful, kind of like Dust Bowl. So definitely low C tier. Ioduct is going to be actually below Erebus, and that's just for one reason. Like, obviously I would put it in F tier for this reason, but because of the layout is solid, I put it in C tier because obviously it's Viaduct. Viaduct is pretty good, generally speaking. No, the one reason I put it so low is because of the boss. Like, the truce mechanic just sucks. It's just not fun. It just pauses the entire game to do a boss fight. Now, I get that that's nice if you're trying to do the boss fight contract, but that's the only time it's nice. And that's once per Halloween is it nice, and the rest of Halloween I just don't queue for it because it just takes too long. The 3-minute round timer on either side when you cap the point, that's fine, but the truces make it double if not triple that in duration, especially when people keep killing the bosses, because the way the boss mechanics work is if you kill the boss once, he's going to spawn faster until you stop killing him, because essentially every time he levels up as well, so he's more difficult to fight, and then if you don't beat him, he stops spawning for a little bit. That is the only time you'll ever get round time off, if people don't kill the boss, which means the matches drag on for a while, and it's just not fun having to, you know, it takes so long over one map. Like, I want to play different maps. Halloween is super chaotic. The map doesn't even have spells. The Underworld is like fine, but it's really basic. Obviously, it's one of the first Halloween maps, so it kind of makes sense. Like, it's made by Valve and stuff, so it makes sense that it's not that crazy yet. But at the same time, the map does feel kind of lacking. So either upper F tier or just lower C tier. Farmageddon is going to be upper C tier, I think. It's definitely going to outrank most of the maps in C tier, because most of the maps in C tier I wouldn't queue for, and I think I would queue for Farmageddon. I like the announcer because he has a southern accent. The hell is kind of cool because you actually cannot camp the enemy's side of hell. There's a little there's essentially spawn barriers there, which is really cool. And it's essentially like a cool King of the Hill type mid fight down there. So generally speaking, I kind of like that part of the map. but just the general layout seems a little bit lacking. I mean, I could probably put it here, but then I would want to do something like this maybe, or maybe even this again. But yeah, generally speaking, like, you know, it's not an unenjoyable map. It's pretty fun to play and stuff. It's just that it's a little bit lacking. Like, it's just a little bit too basic in its layout, and it's just, the layout just isn't good enough for me to put it any higher. As it stands, like right now we have a good like triangular sort of like spread, and this is what you're looking for with a tier list. You want to, you know, the outer, like the upper and the lower tiers, they gotta have the least, and then the middle tiers should have the most. So this is, we're actually like, this is kind of like a normal, like a bell curve almost type of shit. All right, so we got Ghost Fort. Ghost Fort is going firmly in F tier next to Crash. There's a couple reasons for this. First of all, it's the round timer is 7 minutes on either side, which is just awful. That would have been awful if this was Lakeside. All right, that would have already been awful. Add to that the fact that Marasmus spawns on the map, and once again, there's a truce mechanic. Take these two things together, and you are looking at rounds that take at least 30 minutes, because people will kill Marasmus. New people will join your game while you're still playing it, and will also want to kill Marasmus for their contract, and it just ends up with these matches taking forever, and it's just unenjoyable. Like, Lakeside as a map isn't bad. Once again, Crasher also, like, the layout isn't bad, but it's just that whatever else is going on in the map, it's just firmly putting it in F tier, and just there's no redeeming factor. Ghoul Pit. The one thing I will say that's cool about Ghost Fort, which some people actually think is a downside, is the fact that once you beat the boss and you go into the Abominomicon and you arrive at Skull Island, there's a cool little DM fight that happens there, where both sides have to like sort of like battle it out to see who gets to the treasure. I always like that because it's essentially like another mid. Anyway, Ghoul Pit is next. Ghoul Pit is probably going firmly into lower A tier. Maybe even, I definitely want to put it above Brimstone because it's just a better map. Ghoul Pit is Sludge Pit event. Sludge Pit is like actually a decent payload map. Ghoul Pit, however, the one thing that's keeping it out of A tier for me is the fact that it's just such a lazy event map. Like the eventification of this map is so lazy, in the sense that literally all they did is add a dark skybox. They added like a pit somewhere. They added some Halloween props here and there. They added like ghosts that go around, and they added pumpkins. That's it. They added nothing else. There's no hell. They added spells, but spells were added as such a like last second afterthought that they had just an innumerable amount of exploits you could do with them. You could go outside the map in so many different ways using those spells that they were promptly deleted after about 3 to 4 days of the map being added. So just the whole Halloweenification of this map was just so lazy that I cannot put it in A tier, even though it is a solid map, and I essentially treat it like an A tier map. But just how it was how it was gone about, like them adding it, just makes me put it in B tier, like the whole context of it. Right, Gorge Event is going in lower A tier for sure. I always liked Attack Defense Gorge, and Gorge Event is essentially a pro version. Because the big problem with Gorge is that pushing last becomes kind of hard, because at some point you can just get locked out of the entire building past first. And they kind of try to fix that by adding this like roof route that you can take. Obviously, if you're a good soldier on defense, you can use that high ground to your advantage and stuff, because it's no longer clipped off, which can be a bit abusable. But aside from that, the pumpkin spots are pretty good, barring a couple that literally do nothing except get splash bugged all the time. There's a funny pit they added, which I always like. The one thing I don't like about it is that there's skeletons, but I mean that applies to a whole host of these maps. Like skeletons just generally aren't very fun. Yeah, I think Gorge Event is very good. It's essentially like a pro version of Gorge, plus funny Halloween gimmicks. Just unfortunate that there's no hell, but that's because the map was added before the hell gimmicks even existed, I'm pretty sure. So I can't really fault the map for that. That's just the flaw of the map being so old. I really like this map. I'm queuing for it essentially every time. Gravestone, which is a rumble. I'm pretty sure this is the one that if you cap last, or you fail to cap at all, like when the defense wins, you get a funny bumper cart race, and the winner of the race decides it. So this is going in S tier just because of that funny bumper cart race alone. There's a cool skip you can do in the bumper cart race, because bumper cart boost is essentially a Demo Knight trimp. So you can trimp with it, or a Demo Knight charge, I mean, so you can trimp with it, and you can literally skip the entire race if you know what you're doing, which is fucking epic. And I did it in a Highlander tournament, and it won us the game, which is in a Halloween Highlander tournament. So that was really funny. And so for that alone, I'm putting it in S tier. The layout itself, like the payload map itself, is pretty good as well. Like, I know a lot of people dislike it because there's some chokes that can be really hard to push through. But I think if you're complaining about not being able to push on a Halloween map, then you just haven't figured out how to abuse hell or how to abuse spells. If you do either of those things, it's virtually impossible to fail pushing. But, you know, it's casual, so everything can and will happen. Generally, just I really like this map. It's super chaotic as well, which is like definitely in the theme. Actually, I'm gonna put this in A tier as well, just because of how chaotic it is. Like, this map is super chaotic, and that's really like the Halloween spirit. Like, you can hate on skeletons all you want, but they do add to the chaos, which is, you know, like, Halloween is a great equalizer. Like, all the like really good 12,000 hour gamers, you know, all the MGE Michaels that breathe fire, are facing off against little Timmies that have just installed, and the little Timmies are just able to throw a spell and kill them, which I think is fucking hysterical. Stuff like that, it's just great. Like, there's so many silly shit going on in Halloween. And anyway, Graveyard is Arena, and for that alone, it already deserves a spot in A tier. It's also a better version of Lumberyard in the sense that there's health kits, which is really cool. And you actually have like teammates that heal you. Now, I wish the ghost mechanic was better tested, and I think that's why it's going in bottom A tier, because the ghosts can like bump you on spy, and when you kill someone with the extinguisher, you don't get a speed boost, even though you do kill them. So I think like the fact that there's just a lack of polish for the map makes me put it in lower A tier. Otherwise, I put it in upper A tier because it's Arena, and they should just add Arena to casual, because Arena is fucking fantastic. Go play Save Arena. Arena is just really fun. I have some other problems with this map, which is the fact that you have to get pumpkin bomb kills, which can be like one of the hardest pumpkin bomb kills to get in all of contracts. I would know because I 100% contracts every year, and this is a really, like, this is not it's not really a tough one to get 100%, but it's going to take a while because it's like they spawn so rarely. I'm pretty sure they like only spawn at the start of a round, and a lot of people just shoot them when they see them. Like, they just shoot them so they don't die to them, which means that getting those frags is really annoying. Like, I honestly just wish they would change that contract a little bit, and then like just get rid of the pumpkin bomb kills, make it collect pumpkin, like a crit pumpkin. Actually, no, I don't think the crit pumpkins drop on that map because it's Arena. Regardless, do something else with it. Like, make it like heal a teammate for 100 health when you're a ghost, like in 1 life or something when you're a ghost, right? Do something like that, like just some different contract. Don't do the pumpkin bomb, because the pumpkin bombs are miserable on that map. That is also holding it down, because I really like Lumberyard as an Arena map, and I really like Arena as a format. But yeah, there's just some general flaws with the map. It's just a lack of polish. Also, the fact that in the pre-game warm-up, I'm not talking about setup time, I'm talking about when you're joining into a pub and there's the 60-second countdown, you cannot leave spawn. The doors are still closed, which I think is awful and they need to fix. Because, you know, I don't want to sit there for 60 seconds doing nothing. That's why they added the countdown time anyway, where you can like move around and play, so you can actually do something while you're waiting for more people to join. So that is definitely holding it back. Harvest event, very solid. Probably going interesting B tier, I would say. Probably bottom B tier because I've played Harvest so much. But Harvest event is just Harvest. It's just a solid layout. There's pumpkin bombs. There's ghosts that spook you. Getting the spook contract kills is like a little bit annoying because you need 10 of them, and it's very RNG whether people run into them, whether you kill them in time, whether you can even get to them and kill them at all. And I don't know, like the ghosts can be kind of frustrating as well because they essentially are like a wall that appear in front of you randomly, and if you walk through them, you're just dead most of the time. So that can be a little bit annoying, but aside from a Harvest event, very solid. It's Harvest, like who doesn't like it? Hassle Castle is upward, just with lower frames and like prop spam and spells. There's no boss or anything, there's no pumpkin bombs, which I think actually serves the map well. This is going above Bloodwater, probably above Gorge as well. just because it's a solid layout, it is upward. The map just plays well. There's cool spells everywhere. Yeah, I mean, it's just a good map. It's unfortunate that you can still build underneath the map. Like, I don't get why mappers don't just put kill triggers underneath all of their maps. Because, like, fucking NG mains will find a way to get out of bounds on your map. Regardless of how well you think your Halloween map is, people are going to find out of bounds exploits. So if you just put kill triggers underneath your entire map, that'll never happen. Like, people will just die if they try to go outside of bounds. So please, future Halloween mappers, put kill planes outside of bounds so we don't get people building sentries underneath second and upward. It's really annoying. And I got vote kicked by people that were doing out of bound exploits because I was like essentially playing the game, and like I was playing the game at first because like the enemy wasn't really pushing anymore because they knew about the sentries, and then the engineer mains that were all outside of bounds doing like taunts and like punching their sentries that were out of bounds and killing people, they were getting upset with me that because I was making it so that people wouldn't walk into their guns, that, you know, their indestructible guns outside of the map that were just freely killing everyone. Yeah, I was denying them from getting kills by just playing the game, and so they vote kicked me. So I have a bias against people that go outside of bounds nowadays, because they're just cringe gamers, and they don't act like people like that don't actually play the game. They just come to fucking destroy the playability of maps whenever Delphi makes a video. Yeah, but that's just a little bit of upper end. This map is very solid. It's just good. I don't really like the changes to last. I think they should be either done away with or like, you know, sort of changed. Like the fact that they got rid of a drop down on last. Why did you get rid of that drop down on last? You just essentially ruined like a great part of the map. Like they added that tower on last as well, which I think is like, kind of weird. And the fact that there's no little ramp, like normally on upward last, you have to push the cart all the way up this ramp to get it to cap last, and if you don't do that, it'll roll back. They also got rid of that for some reason, so now it's just like unholdable in last. So I'm kind of biased against last, but it's still upward. Like I can't, like, you know, it's fine. All right, next map is Hell Tower. Hell Tower is going like in lower B tier, I guess, because like it's still high tower, it's still a solid map. It's just that it suffers from Hell Tower syndrome, which is you can never finish your contract because people will always be able to block it because everybody always has spells ready to throw it at the cap. And the Hell minigame is very like RNG. It feels very RNG whether you make it to the end of it or not. So that's kind of annoying. Aside from that, though, it's a solid map. It's Hell Tower. Laughter, I've personally always enjoyed, though I know a lot of people don't really like it. I'm gonna put it in upper B tier or like middle B tier because it is solid. I like the Hell because it's very unique in the way that it is a Hell. Most Hells kind of like, they almost like blend into each other because they become very generic. But Laughter's Hell is very unique, and I can appreciate it for that reason. The whole map plays very well. I like Slaughter as a map as well. Laughter is just a little bit better, I would say, because there's pumpkin bombs, there's added pits. What else is there? Obviously, there's the funny Hell gimmick where you get speed boost, uber overheal crits, and you can like do a free pumpkin serve or TNT bombs as the map calls them. The map looks pretty good. There's like the skybox is cool and stuff like that. So generally, I enjoy this map. I know a lot of people don't, but I don't really care about that. I think the map's fun. Los Muertos is going in fucking upper S tier because nowadays it's just excellent. When it first came out, it was kind of bad because there were so many exploits and the performance was shit. And the performance of like all these maps is horrible, so we're not even factoring that in, by the way. But Los Muertos nowadays is honestly one of my favorite Halloween maps. It plays so well. My one gripe with it is that a lot of the like high grounds and stuff you cannot get on unless you have like a double jump or a winger or some kind of explosive jumping. I feel like if the map was scaled down like 25% or something, a lot of those high grounds you would be able to get on using skill jumps, which is really cool. Like if they updated this map to make it so you could get on top of all the high grounds as like a pyro without a detonator, and if you could do that just by like making them like skill jumps or just in some way interesting parkour that isn't free, then I think the map would just immediately become even better than it already is. It's already incredible. Like, yeah, and I just think there's, you know, like even the Hell is really good. Like the whole aesthetic of the map is cool. The layout is solid. The pumpkin placements are decent. Like I can't really think of any bad things about this map aside from the fact that if it was scaled down like 25% in some areas, then it would actually play better because you could do parkour and get on high grounds and stuff. Man Manor is... Nowadays I find it a little bit lacking. I always enjoyed it a lot. Nowadays I find it to be a little bit lackluster. Probably because I've played it so much, and because you always go here for like the what is like the contract where you kill a horseman, and the contract where you have to like get attack people as it, which can be kind of annoying. Now personally I don't mind it because it's a melee contract. I really like it for being able to bomb off of pumpkins though. Like you can sink off of like you can essentially do like triple sinks off of one pumpkin jump. It's incredible. I love it. The skybox is high enough to allow for it, which is really cool. But generally I feel like they dumped down a lot of the cool geometry that this original map has. So I think the original is better, and because of that it's going in lower B tier. Otherwise it would probably be A tier. Maple Ridge is a solid map which I've played in 4s, and I really like it. It also has this high skybox that you can do pumpkin jumps with. Generally the layout is really good. It's one of the few maps that I actually would go and play Hitscan Sniper on, just because Hitscan Sniper is like so oppressive on it. But the general layout I think is really good as well. It just plays well even for pubs. I mean the like playing the point and playing that high ground can be a little bit oppressive. If the enemy team doesn't really know what they're doing, it's going to be hard for them to push into it. But generally speaking, the map is just solid. I played Maple Ridge, the original, in 4s, and it just feels really good to play. It's just a solid map, and there's nothing else I can say about it. Megalo is going firmly into the bottom of C tier, probably above Iduck, because boss mechanics just kind of suck. Megalo is a funny idea with the whole train. Like, oh, what if we made a train? Because trains in casual are just really funny, right? People will die to it regardless. Like, even if you're MGE Michael who can breathe fire, you will essentially get trained. You will occasionally get trained here and there just because you're trying to fight someone and the train comes at an inopportune time, right? That's just the nature of the game, especially with Halloween and how chaotic it is. Megalo, though, it has no hell, it has no spells, it has like 4 pumpkin spawn locations, which is miserable if you're trying to do that contract. And the rest of the layout is just very mediocre. Like, you cannot hold the point, and so oftentimes the only good way to hold the map is to hold in front of their spawn and to just spawn trap. And I just don't really think that's good map design. Like I don't know, like the whole rotating platform mid-train thing is like a cool idea, and the fact that the outer boxes of the train don't kill you but they stun you instead is pretty unique and stuff, and like the cool spook train model, but it just plays badly, and it's just unfun to do your contract on, and that's really what matters here. Alright, so Hellstone. Hellstone is a pretty cool map. Hellstone is really chaotic and feels very large and sprawling. I played the original in Highlander lobbies, and it's actually pretty fun to play Millstone. The whole map is really chaotic, and it definitely embodies that whole Halloween thing of chaos, spells, bosses. The card is like a little ghost, and you get stunned by it if you're the defense, which is kind of annoying because it means you cannot physically block the card. But aside from that, like, the map is really fun. Like, first is a little bit boring. Like, I'm gonna say first is probably the worst part of the map, but once you're past first, the map just really picks up. Like, second is fun to push and defend. Third is kind of hard to defend, but it, you know, in those rare moments where you're able to pull off a hold on it, it's pretty rewarding. Fourth can be pretty hard to push, and last is super chaotic because of the pit and the several monoculuses, and the horseman might still be around and all that stuff. Generally, though, this map is going into A tier just because it embodies the chaos, the sheer chaos of Halloween very well. I actually prefer it above Bloodwater when I'm queuing, just because it's so much fun. It gets so much chaotic fun. Mulder Grove is a solid map, but it's the map with the little 3v3 arena when you cap the point. The one problem with it is that it was clearly never playtested, because if you playtest it, you realize that it's better to not go into hell, because you're essentially, if 3 people on the enemy team go into hell and your team doesn't commit to going into hell, then it's like they're just 3 players down for like a minute and a half, which is half of the round timer, by the way. Something like that, or like 30-45 seconds. It's like a long time anyway. So that is a problem that I have with the map, is the fact that the whole hell gimmick is just arbitrary and essentially useless. Aside from that, the map layout is solid. There's some interesting, like, there's like a cool jump you can do on the right, on the mid somewhere. Generally, like, the pumpkin layout is pretty good. There's no spells, which is a bit basic, but I guess that's fine. Not all maps need spells to be interesting, and the general layout is like all right. That's like fairly solid. Moonshine is actually pretty fun. There's a lot of water, so you can do funny pyro sharking. Even if people aren't really in the water, you'll very often still be able to crit them, which is really cool. I just think the round timer is really long, and that really holds it back. That probably puts it underneath Molder Grove. Probably do something like this, actually. Yeah, that probably puts it underneath Molder Grove, just because the round timer is just so long, so you're going to be spending like 20 minutes just playing 8 round, or like 15 minutes playing 8 round on King of the Hill, which is just very long. There's the funny spinning wheel of Marasmus, which is kind of cool. There's like a cool way to snipe into their spawn if you get on the tree, which I really like. You can pyro shark. The general layout isn't actually that bad, aside from the whole mid being like sniper heaven. But it's just the round timers to really hold it back. Pit of Death is another player destruction map. I'm probably gonna rate it like this, above Cursed Cove but below Monster Bash, because I actually like it. I like how, to cap the point, you have to go into the titular Pit of Death, and if you're bad at the game, you're just going to assume, oh, I can go in there, and you didn't look at your HUD, and then you just fall into the actual Pit of Death, which takes about 5 seconds to fully fall through. So be ready to hit your kill bind if you fall in, so you save all that time. The general layout is pretty cool because it's like on a big hill, which means it's just more interesting. I think yeah, it's just a good like deathmatch arena. I think like there's spells. Yeah, pretty sure there's pumpkin bombs as well. Like actually there isn't. There's no pumpkin bombs, but no, I think that's fine. Actually, there might be pumpkin bombs. I can't really remember, honestly, but this map is just solid. Like, inoffensive, solid, not terrible. Loads of pits as well to push people into or to knock people into, which is just really funny. Yeah, I mean, it's just enjoyable. No Skeleton King, which is a big up. Precipice is, honestly, in my opinion, one of the worst payload maps that have been added. Probably ever. I mean, that's probably not true, because like Gold Rush didn't age very well, and Enclosure, as much as I enjoyed, it's just a bad map. But Precipice is like, first is hard to push, second is hard to push, last is hard to push. Like, this whole map is just hard to push, and there's no hell, so that's like, there's no real way to get like cool crits, offensive momentum boosts and stuff like that. So this is not a map I particularly enjoy. The cart is really funny though. The cart does like a lot of like weird shit on this map. It shits out skeletons, it does 360s, it like gets on the side and starts doing it sideways, admin, all this funny shit with the cart. But I think the general layout as a payload map just isn't very good. Yeah, it's just not interesting enough to really be a fun map. And a lot of times the ghosts spawn in places where you just cannot avoid them, and it's just like, oh, I guess I'm stunned now because there's a ghost here. It's not very fun. So it's not a great map. I would probably move it down, honestly, to like upper C tier, because I would rather play it than any of these maps, but I don't think I would rather play it than Helltower. I think this is probably better. Sunshine is an incredible map. It's no wonder they added Sunshine, because Sunshine was so popular. I actually think Sunshine is better than Sunshine, even though Sunshine is a newer version of it, because Sunshine has the extra route going into the last, which I really like. I think the map really desperately needs it. It has funny pits on second and on the mid. It has better health kit distribution. The second point itself is a little bit different. Like, the windows are open, which I kind of like as well. Because you can like bomb in from the mid, and if you do good strafing, you can literally market garden someone on the point by flying through the window, which is really funny. Some stuff like that. So generally, like, this is a very enjoyable map. Yeah, just a great map. Very little to say about it other than that. Like, it probably outranks a couple of these maps as well, just because it's so solid. I might even put it in. I might move Cauldron into S tier, and just put Sunshine in upper A tier. I think that would be probably pretty fitting. Synthetic is really solid. It's just that the main gimmick of the map is that it spawns the Skeleton King, but just reskinned, which is just a little bit lacking. Like, there's spells everywhere. The layout is really good. The original map, Synthetic, I played in floors. I've played it on community servers, in pubs. Like, it's pretty fun. It's just a pretty good map in general. Very inoffensive. We're gonna put it with this selection of maps that are good, and that have good original maps that they're based off of, but they're kind of lacking in execution when it comes to turning them into a Halloween map, but they're still solid. Like, these would all be A tier if they were just a little bit more interesting as Halloween maps, but they're just very bland Halloweenifications. Slasher. Slasher is probably C tier for me. It definitely outranks these maps. But it has the problem of having massive map timers. It spawns every single boss, but fortunately they got rid of the truce mechanic. That really made the map unplayable. Like, that, if the truce mechanic was still there, it would be an F tier below Ghost Fort, because Ghost Fort only spawns one boss. Slasher has like an 8-minute round timer. It spawns all the bosses. The hell, though, I really liked it at first. Nowadays, I think it's too much. Like, it's too large, it's too sprawling, it's too easy to stay alive in there. Like, you can stay in hell forever if you want. And as a matter of fact, it's meta if you want to farm your pumpkin bomb contracts, because you just farm invisibility spells down there, farm health kits until someone walks past the pumpkin, and because you're invisible with like millions of invincibility spells that you can just farm down there, you can get free pumpkin bomb kills. So that, like, I mean, that's just me exploiting the map. That doesn't make the map better. The general layout feels a little bit too wide or too open or something. I don't really enjoy it too much. It's just, I don't know, it's just a very lackluster map. Sawmill is Sawmill, but pro. I think it's probably bottom A tier, because it is a solid map. It's better, like, it's a better Halloweenification than all of these. The hell is really unique. I really, like, commend them. They made a good hell. Like, there's so many cool different routes you can take, and most of them are useless, granted, but it means there's this variety, which is really cool. They turned the saw blades into spooky ghost saw blades. They spawn, like, random spawning ghost saw blades around the map. They added extra health kits, which I think is excellent, because that's one major flaw with Sawmill, is that it doesn't have enough health kits. Generally, though, yeah, Sawmill is a very solid layout, so it's kind of fine. I guess I'll probably put it up here, because it does feel a little bit basic for Halloweenification of a map, but at least, like, unlike these three maps, it has a hell, and it has a really interesting hell, so I'll give it that. It's kind of cool. Spooky Rage, I actually kind of like because of its gimmick, but at the same time, I'm also very critical of it because of its gimmick. Now, let me explain this, because if you didn't know, Spooky Rage has essentially a dark world and a light world. You take damage in the dark world, and the light world is just a normal place where you have to cap and stuff. So you can use the dark world portals to go into the dark world, and then you can walk in the dark world and take a light world portal somewhere else, and then you'll appear at that spot in the light world. So you can essentially use it for extra flanks and stuff like that. I mean, that's the idea. And the idea is really cool. I mean, the idea is ripped straight out of Metroid Prime 2 or A Link to the Past if you want to go even further back in time. But I'm definitely saying Metroid Prime 2 because a lot of the particles from the dark portals and the light portals are just ripped straight out of Metroid Prime 2. I would know because I've played that game to death. Even on stream, I played that shit in 100%. I fucking blind 100% at that game after not having played it for like 2, 3 years, 4 years, something like that. That was a lot of fun, but it's my favorite Metroid Prime game. Maybe even my favorite Metroid game, for that matter. But yeah, so the gimmick is really cool. It's just the execution is really poor. Like, it's not dynamic enough. It's always like you go in this portal and you come out one of these two portals. It's not any more dynamic than that, and that really holds the map back. Like, if the dark world was more dynamically connected to the rest of the map would be S tier for sure, just because it would be so unique and you'd be able to do so many different cool strategies with it. But as it stands, a lot of the dark world areas are secluded from other parts of the dark world, so you just can't really rotate between many different parts of it, which is just a shame. Terror and Hell Train. Hell Train, I'm actually going to rate pretty high. Let me actually look up what Terror is real quick. This is embarrassing. I know that I knew this would happen. Wait, oh, I remember Terror. Terror is there's a Smithmas version of this map as well. So it's going in upper C tier because it's just a really bad layout. I don't like it at all. It's not fun to push, it's not fun to hold. The hell is kind of funny because it's really but it's really like there's too many purple spells over there, so you can just go there and jump from one purple spell to the next and literally farm for the perfect purple spell. I don't like it at all. And it's too easy to stay infinitely in there as well, because like every time you pick up the Minify spell and you use it, you get back to full health, so you can literally just farm for health infinitely. It's just a little bit weird. Yeah, generally that is definitely holding the map back. The general layout I don't like enough to warrant putting it any higher either. I think the Smithsmith version also isn't good, and it's just a bad payload map. That's all I can say about it. Like it's on par with Precipice for just being a bad payload map, and then add to that the fact that the Hell on Terror is very exploitable and just not good, and the fact that there isn't enough interesting things to really set the map apart. Just not a big fan. And then Hell Train finally, this is going to come as a surprise, but I'm actually going to put Hell Train in A tier, and that is really weird because I don't like CTF, but I think Hell Train is really cool. The 3D skybox on it is immaculate. It's the reason I nowadays run 3D skyboxes. I never did before, and I do it now just because it looks so cool on that map specifically. What else? Like, the layout is just pretty good. Like, it's based off of Convoy, which is a really old CTF map from 2012, and Convoy sucked. It's a really cool idea to have two moving vehicles next to each other and have the 3D skybox represent that. It's just that the execution was bland, the 3D skybox was lame, the layout itself was really poor and way too small and choky, and Hell Train has just essentially taken this. They even took the jump pads, which were really fucking cool. Hell Train essentially took this idea and just said, like, this is a really cool concept, let's actually do it well. So Hell Train, really good. And I don't tend to like CTF, but Hell Train has a timer, a map timer, and if it runs out, you are put in a melee only deathmatch arena, free for all, like last man standing type of shit. Well, not free for all, but you know, two teams versus each other, last man standing. So excellent map. I really like it. Might even put it higher than some of these others. Like, I might do something like, it kind of feels bad putting it above like anything else really, but I think this looks solid, honestly. There might be some, like, I might kind of disagree with, like, this might not be exactly how I feel about everything, but you know, there might be some things might, like, you know, it might be like this instead of this, or you know, it might be like this instead of this. Like, I'm not really gonna look into that too much, but this is the general gist, I would say, with how I like my Halloween maps. So with that, yeah, if you feel insulted by these decisions, if you don't like any of my choices in S tier or F tier, if you think Crasher is the best map to ever have been added, or if you think Los Muertos is the worst map to ever have been added, let me know. We can maybe have a little civil discussion about it, but all in all, that's gonna be the video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.